On today's episode of Anime Afterthought, ReZero Season 2, Episode 7, Friend. Holy shit. Today's episode just goes to show you how every single loop is different. Now, last we left off, once again we find ourselves returning to the Roswell mansion, this time armed with the knowledge from a previous loop, as well as being backed by the battle-hardened maids, Ram and Frederica. But unfortunately, even with Petra's eternal cuteness, this is not enough to stave off the madness that is Elsa Granhirt, the Bow Hunter. In a devastating encounter that can only be described as a complete massacre, once again our heroes fall victim to this psychopath with a fetish for slicing stomachs. And as the life is slowly draining from Subaru, he is once again welcoming death, for in it is another chance to alter fate. But it seems this loop, fate has other plans. In a last second interference from Beatrice, Subaru is spared death, leaving us all to wonder, is this the new checkpoint? Has this timeline been saved? And this is where we pick up today's episode. Now once again I must reiterate that Subaru did not leave his last encounter unscathed. He is on the verge of death. Broken, battered, and bruised, his only thought was ending this last loop seeing Ram. But due to Beatrice's unwanted interference, it might all be for naught. Is this the new timeline? Is this what's going on? Why did Beatrice save him? And the simple question turns out into an all-out interrogation, as Subaru wants to know, why did you save him? Why didn't you save the others? You have the power to, why didn't you? And all we're getting from Beatrice is a bunch of non-answers. I suppose Betty does this. I suppose Betty does that. Well, I don't know what Betty thinks. Subaru, frustrated by the way this conversation is going, decides to take matters into his own hands, choosing once again suicide to reset this loop. But upon seeing him reach for a shard of glass and holding it to his neck, Beatrice once again interferes. Why is she doing this? What is on her mind? What the fuck is going on? Tossed aside like a rag doll, Subaru makes an unnerving discovery. Betty is in possession of a certain book, one that will be etched in Subaru's mind forever. The Witch's Gospel. Yes, she has her own Witch's Gospel. And once again, the interrogation begins up. Why do you have this book? What is going on? What is your relationship with the Witch's cult? Once again, Beatrice is giving us non-answers until she's pressured to the point where she starts spewing out information. This book is close to her, a memento. She lives her life according to the gospel. Why did I save you? It has nothing to do with who you have a personality or how you make people laugh or anything about you. It's just because of the gospel. I live my life pertaining to that. And in turn, I only live for one person, Mother. You can tell that deep down inside she is emotionally conflicted. Is she truly living her life by only what the gospel commands? Or is she putting on an emotional front to stave off her emotions towards Subaru? I don't know. Finally, Elsa seems to have found the magic corridor, maybe because it was Beatrice being distracted by the emotional state she is in, or the mansion just ran out of fucking doors. I don't know. But she begins to enter the library, and although she confronts Subaru first, she turns her attention toward Beatrice. But Subaru, being our tracksuit hero, is not one to give up, grasping onto her ankle, calling for Beatrice to snap out of it. But once again, this only results in Elsa's blade plunging into Subaru's stomach, his final visions being that of Beatrice in a shocked state. And so, Loop 2 has ended. So now it's time to answer the biggest question we've had so far of Season 2. Where has the checkpoint saved? And thank God, once Subaru returns, we are back again at the sanctuary. Yes, unfortunately, Amelia is once again dealing with her devastating trauma from her past, going through the first trial, but also a sense of relief washes over me. That unfortunate timeline has fallen victim to return by death, and thank God it has. So once again in loop number 3, we follow these certain steps. We're comforting Amelia, taking her back home, having our little team meeting between Otto, Garfield, and once again Ryozu shows up, but there seems to be some innate and unnoticed changes happening inside Subaru, or at least to himself. Once the conversation with the group is over, he is once again outside Roswell's place, prepping himself for the inevitable confrontation, when his thinking is interrupted by an unsuspecting character, Otto. He has taken notice and is worried by Subaru's current demeanor. He's calm, too calm. With everything going on with Amelia, the trial, and everything going on inside the sanctuary, it just isn't right. What is going on with you? Now Subaru is taking this as a compliment. Hey, I'm glad I know I can, think about what I need to think about and not, put on some kind of nervous wreck face. He goes, no. This isn't about strategizing and just thinking. You're too calm. Something's wrong. Something's weird. Something's off. But before the two can really dive deep into Subaru's emotional state, their conversation is interrupted by Garfield. It seems at this point Subaru is a hot commodity. Unfortunately, he leaves Otto's side to have a little chit chat with our half-beast. And for some reason, Garfield finds it necessary to do this out in the fucking forest. Once the pair make it to a clearing, they are confronted by a familiar face. Yes, Ryozu, this time decked in the white garment. Subaru, although no longer conflicted by Frederica's allegiance, is still curious on how she made it out of the sanctuary, taking the this opportunity, he begins to question the pair. And this is where we garner some good information. First and foremost, the sanctuary rules are concrete and quite literal. A barrier to keep in half-bloods, literally 50% human and 50% other species. So how did Frederica make it out? Simple. She's not quite a half-blood. She's more like a quarter. It turns out Frederica Ballman and Garfield Tenzel are actually only half brother and sister. They have different fathers, and that's how she was able to make it out. Of course, this ruins Subaru plans of trying to circumvent the trials, but he does have another idea in mind. Remember, so far this loop, no one actually knows that Subaru is allowed to undergo the trials, as well as he actually passed the first one. Announcing this giant revelation and the fact that he would like to undergo the trials instead of Amelia, both Garfield and Ryozu are shocked. But Subaru makes his plan abundantly clear. Yes, he knows Amelia will eventually have to overcome past, but for right now, it seems to be taking too much of an emotional toll, and he just can't deal with it. He has complete trust in Amelia, but he would like to give her some kind of out. Now, I call back to my previous statement as we see that every loop is unique, and this one is no exception to the rules. As in the first loop, Garfield, at the very end, as they're traveling back to the edge of the barrier to return the villagers, he states his opinion as wanting Subaru to take the test instead of Amelia. Number two, he was completely against it. This time, his protests turned to violent, as we see that Garfield and Ryozu are just not having this. It can't go down like this. This is not the will of Ryozu Shima. Wait a second, don't you mean Ryozu Bilma? Well, I'm pretty sure we all saw that coming. If it wasn't a glaringly obvious clue, one being cloaked in white and the other one in black, these are actually two different characters. And it seems that the white one just happens to be a fan of, I don't know, kidnapping and false imprisonment and somewhat torturous type acts. Well, yeah, Subaru is taken hostage, taken to a place unbeknownst to us, out in the middle of the fucking woods or hidden. No one knows where this place is in the sanctuary. He is bound and gagged. It seems all in an attempt to make sure Amelia is the one to pass the actual trials. But not only all that, Garfield makes it very clear. The reason I don't trust you is your smell, your scent. You remember that? Remember what happens when he actually uses return by death? The witch's miasma, the witch's scent? Yes, Garfield, much like Ram and Rem, can actually pick up on this smell, this aura that is emanating from Subaru. Now, I do have to question, why exactly is it more predominant now? Is it ever increasing the more he uses return by death? Or is it just because he used return by death, like it's more potent, and the more time that actually passes, it'd be less potent? Like, is it just after it activated? Or is it something that Echidna did? During her tea party, we know that she fucked with his witch's factor, so I don't know, but it's glaringly obvious that Garfield can pick up on it, and at this point, he thinks he's actually part of the witch's cult. I don't know what the fuck you're planning, but I do not trust you. And unfortunately, before he can even do the last-ditch effort of biting his tongue off, thus bleeding to death, Garfield once again gags him, and unfortunately, he's just left there. But his disappearance has not gone unnoticed, as we see not only the villagers, but Amelia, Ram, Otto, even Garfield is, quote-unquote, looking for him. Now, it seems 3 days have passed, and during those times, besides getting a visit and some much-needed food, he only had two thoughts on his mind. First was of Beatrice and her connection to the gospel and whether she's really living her life through it. And the other is a montage of every single death of everyone he has ever experienced. These images must be so traumatic, for it's enough to have him bash his head against the floor. But luckily, it seems he has some true friends. As we see, he is finally rescued, and his would-be hero is Otto. Yes, the caravan guy that I thought was gonna be a non-recurring character, just a throwaway, maybe make an appearance every once in a while. Yeah, he's showing up to save the day. And it seems he's actually grown some balls, admitting that, Subaru, you're my friend, and that's why I saved you. And this is a much-needed awakening, a slap of reality. Like, Subaru needed to hear that, knock him out of his current calmness state, like his emotional situation. And if we really truly think about it, we look back and see everything he's done, he really has made a difference. I mean, just look at the relationship between him and Otto. Otto has been saved multiple times, regardless of him trying to get an in with Roswell and be the official courier or whatever he wants position in his camp. I mean, yeah, these two have been kind of compatriots for a while, and ending out the episode with that nice Subaru laugh and like a revitalization of his spirit just felt so good. Well, until you got to the post-credit scene. Yes, make sure to keep watching, because at the end we see as Subaru, Otto are exiting the woods, coming across Ram, who makes a nice little quip. His escape has not gone unnoticed. Unfortunately, finally Garfield shows up. He's pissed, like transform into a fucking beast type piss. I'm fucking excited though, right? Like you see that little hand swell up and shit, like, oh shit, what is his beast form gonna look like? What the fuck he's gonna do? We know that he's a different father, so maybe he's a different species. Oh my God, like fuck, I'm excited. Fuck. Like there's a lot of shit that went on in today's episode. Like I said, you know, finally realizing that there are two different Ryozus, like Shima and Bilma. Jesus Christ, Subaru getting taken hostage and imprisoned, like bound and gagged type shit. Like what the fuck? I gotta say, the best part of today's episode is Subaru's death. Coming to the giant realization and learning the outcome is that checkpoint, that timeline was not saved. We return to day one, coming right out of the first trial. Like, oh my God, seeing all that fucking carnage had me just so fucking worried. But like I said, where do we go from here? I don't know. It's weird. Every loop is so fucking unique. So now we have to deal with a pissed off Garfield. The white Ryozu is up to some shit. Where the fuck's the black Ryozu? What the fuck's going on? Will Amelia eventually pass her first trial? We still have 2 more trials to do, or will it just be up to fucking Subaru? He'll say fuck it and just go and do it and break the goddamn barrier himself. Like I have no fucking clue. I mean, you want the best outcome, and with Return by Death, he can make sure that is almost a guarantee, but everyone at this point seems so fucking conflicted. Like every single character is being torn asunder emotionally. It's this shit is fucking raw. Like I fucking love it. So with all that being said, and more ReZero next week, I honestly cannot wait for future episodes.